Alright, we're just about done. I also wanted to show you guys a basic way that we can handle logging in to external services with an OAuth implementation that's fairly specific to ASP.NET Web API Owen's implementation. But for the sake of completeness, I wanted to just throw that out there in case anybody is working with the OAuth 2 Web API Owen solution in ASP.NET and wanted to see how you could log in using an Android device. To either, in this case, I'm going to be doing Facebook and Google, although their code is basically going to be the exact same. So this is going to have some fun with the web view. Where I'm going to start with this, I'm going to start with this in an interesting place. I'm going to start with the register activity. Basically what I need to be able to do is if the user logs in through Facebook, but they haven't already logged into this app ever before, I want to register them. So I need to be able to pre-fill some values with the register activity, and also I need to have the register activity send a different kind of event in the case that it's an external registration. So let's start off with adding some public static final strings to the top. The first is going to be extra external provider equals extra external provider. And I'll just copy and paste this twice because we need our extra external username and extra external token. So here we'll do extra external username and extra external token. So now we have those extras defined. I'm going to add some private fields. And so down here, I'm going to write a private boolean is external login. I'm going to do a private string external token and a private string external provider. Then what I'm going to do is down here in our onCreate, I'm going to go ahead and get some additional data out of this. So I'm going to say intent equals get intent, and I'm going to say external token equals intent get string extra external token. Then I'm going to do external provider equals intent get string extra external provider. And then I'm going to do is external login is going to equal external token does not equal null. And if is external login, then I want to say password text dot set visibility view gone because we don't want to type in a password here. And then I will say username text dot set text, and I want to set that to intent dot get string extra, passing in extra username. So that's that. So then what I want to do is down here on the on click, I want to check to see if they're an external login or not. So before we do the bus.post. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if is external login, do something else, do the same thing we did before. Now the different thing we want to do is instead say new account dot register with external token request, and we want to pass in our username, which is username text dot get text dot toString. We want to pass in our email text get text dot toString. By the way, I could have used OAuth to acquire an email address, but I don't actually have that set up on the Facebook provider. And then provider is of course going to be external provider, and our external token is external token. So that'll send that registration request. And that's it, really, because down here, we already have the two subscribes, one for register response and one for external register response. So now let's scroll up and see what this error is. I'm missing a closing parenthesis. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's go ahead and implement the external login layout, because that's going to be pretty simple. We'll open up a resource folder, our layout folder, and grab activity external login. And then inside of here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this button, but I'll keep that web view, and I'll replace it with our good old friend, the frame layout. And then I'll say clickable is true. And then I'll say ID is activity external login progress frame. And I'll give him a background of 2196F3 to make everything completely opaque in this case. And I'll set his visibility to gone so we can see through him for now. And then inside he'll have our favorite progress bar with the layout gravity of center and an indeterminate only to true. Now we have to jump into our external login activity. And we have a bit of code to write here. Not a whole lot, but a bit. So let's go ahead and start off with the top of the file. We already have most of our stuff already implemented. But I do want to go ahead and create a private static final int request register. Set that to 1. And then I want to remove my test button completely. And then I want to add a private string service and a private view progress frame. Now I want to go ahead and remove all the code out of onCreate that has to do with the test button. So I'm going to remove all that. I'm also going to remove the onClick, and I'm going to make this no longer implement onClick listener. All right, the first thing I want to do is at the top, before we call super onCreate, I want to say cookie manager dot get instance cookie manager. Android.webkit is what we want. We don't want the other cookie manager. So let me go ahead and nuke that import off the top of here. We don't want Java Net Cookie Manager. We want Android WebKit. And then I want to say get instance, and then I want to say remove all cookies. And the reason I'm doing this is because I don't want it to automatically remember us the next time we try to re-log in with Facebook, for example, because if we log out, I assume that the user wants to log back in using a different Facebook account or a Google account or whatever. And the removal of cookies method is deprecated, but it's deprecated in favor of a method that only works on Lollipop. So we're going to continue to use the deprecated one, and I would say that would be safe to do until Lollipop has enough traction to start building specifically for it. So let's go ahead and get our web view, and then I'm going to say service equals get intent, and I'm going to say get string extra. I'm going to say extra external service. And then I'm going to get my progress frame equals find view by ID r.id activity external login progress frame. And then I'm going to go ahead and set its visibility to gone. So set visibility view gone. And after that, I'm going to load something into the web view. So I'm going to construct a URL here. I'm going to say load URL. I'm going to pass in Yura application dot external service, or API endpoint, sorry, plus, and I'm going to put this on a new line, including the plus sign for cleanliness here. So I'm going to do /API v1 auth, and then external login, all one word, provider equals plus service plus, and then I'm going to do and response type equals token, and client ID equals Android, and redirect URI. Now this is important. It's going to be equal to HTTP, but then I have to HTTP encode it because it's in as part of a parameter. So I'm going to do HTTP %3a %2f %2. Well, actually, you know what the faster way to do this would be? All right, I just Googled URL encode online, and I'm going to go ahead and type in what I want here. So HTTP // and we want something here, so we want just replace, because we'll be replacing that in the code, /mobile-login is going to be what we want. So then I'm going to say encode URL, and then I'm going to grab this right here, and I'm going to paste it in this redirect URI. And then for this replace text right here, I'm going to replace that with plus, and I'm going to do your application.api endpoint. And then I'm going to say plus again, and I'll do another and this and will be student token equals plus your application student token. And that's the URL. Actually, this API endpoint, I'll do .get host on this right there, just to make sure that there's no HTTP in it already. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say webview.set webview client new web view client. And what's cool about the web view client is the web view client, I can go ahead and create an anonymous inner type and override some members. The member I want to override is going to be should override URL loading. Now the reason I'm doing this is our redirect URI is specifying us to redirect to this URL called mobile login, which isn't a URL that actually exists on our site. It's just a thing that I'll be able to intercept and know when the login was a success. So over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say URI equals URI.parse URI, or URL in this case. And then I'm going to say if URI.getHost.equals URI.application.api endpoint.getHost and URI.getPath.equals / mobile login. This is the thing we want to kind of redirect. I'm going to say external login success, passing in our URI, and then I'm going to say return true to indicate I don't want it to actually go out and load that page. Otherwise, return false, indicating that I want it to behave normally. So let's go ahead and implement our external login success, which is going to intercept some values that are going to be set for us by Facebook or Google. So I'm going to do private void external login success URI, and I'm going to extract out the data. So I'm going to say string external token equals URI.query get query parameter external access token. Then I'm going to do string provider equals URI get query parameter, and I'm going to pass in provider. Boolean has local account equals URI get query parameter has local account dot equals true. So do we already have a local account or not? And we can do this equals, and I'll just keep it like that, I guess. Or equals ignore case for this. And then I'm going to do string external username equals URI get query parameter external username. Then I'll say if not has local account, we want to start the registration process. So I'm going to say intent equals new intent this register activity.class. Then I'm going to say intent.put extra, and I'm going to pass in register activity extra external provider. Intent put extra register activity extra external username. Intent put extra register. You see we're pre-filling out with this information that we acquired through the external provider. We also need our external token to verify that it was indeed a valid request. Then I'm going to say start activity for result, passing in our intent and our result, what did I call that guy? Request register. Then I'll do an else. Otherwise, I'm going to say progress frame set visibility view.visible, and I'm going to say bus.post new account login with external token request, passing in provider and external token. And that's that. So now I'm going to handle my on activity result. So I'm going to do an override on activity result. And then here I'm going to say if result code equals result OK and request code equals register request register, then I want to go ahead and set result OK and finish. Otherwise, I also want to subscribe to the result of login with external token. So I'll say subscribe public void on finish login account login with external token response. If the response did not succeed, then I want to set the progress frame visibility to view gone. That means we weren't able to log in with that external token. And I'll show the error toast, passing in this for the context, and then I'll return. Otherwise, set result OK, and finish. So basically, what we do is we start the login flow by going to this very specific URL. Once the login flow hits a particular URL indicating success, we extract additional data such as our external token, our provider, whether or not we already have an account, and if we have an external username. If we don't have a local account, we start the register activity, but we pre-fill in with all the information we already know. Or if we do have an account, we actually perform the login with external token request. And then finally, if the result code of the activity is okay, we finished ourselves. And in the case of the onFinish login, we finished ourselves if that succeeded. So let's go ahead and hit play and see about logging in. Now, I have two-factor authentication enabled on both my accounts, so I'm probably going to go ahead and just pause the video if I successfully get a login prompt for Google and Facebook, and then I'll resume it once I log in. Because it'll take a second anyway for me to get my code generator out. All right, the first step, of course, is we need to log out so we can log in with new accounts. I'll do a Facebook login right here. And I got Facebook. I'll do a Google login right here. And I should get a Google. All right, I'll go ahead and pause the video, log in, and I'll be right back. So my Google one seemed to have worked, so let's go ahead and log in with that real fast. I'll give myself a username of Nelson Google and an email of test@test.test, and I'll hit register. The Facebook one seems to be having a problem. I think I have a misconfigured app. I'll take a look at that in a second once I verify that I can indeed register with my external login here. So let's just give that a second. Now let's verify that on my register activity I have on user response, and I do on that and on that. So I should be getting a response at some point here. And it did seem to complete. So it seems that we now have our Google working there just fine. So now let's go ahead and I did notice a couple potential issues with the code while I was looking at that. Let's address those really quick. In our register activity, I never re-enable the email text. So let's make sure that we do that. Furthermore, inside of our live account service, our login with external token and register with external token, we log in the user with the response regardless of if it succeeded. So let's add a checker on that. Let's say if response.did succeed, then login user. And then if response.did succeed, then login user. Well, after some digging, it turns out that there may be a bug in the code that handles the Facebook logging in from ASP.NET side. Not a whole lot I can do about that until there's an update on that. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and leave it for now. The point is that the external login does at least work on Google just fine. And on Facebook, the code should technically work, but it seems that there might just be some issues with the server-side code. Maybe I might have been working on an earlier version of that package when I was doing my initial testing, and unfortunately it seems that it's not going to let me go forward. It's throwing some sort of internal error inside of it. So I'll give you guys a status update if that ever works. If it worked for you guys, great. That means I fixed it, or it fixed itself, or maybe it's just temporarily derping. But anyway, you know, I think we're pretty much about done. I mean, we have all of our external login is working. We've seen how we can take pass data around and how the flow works, and I think that's sufficient for what I wanted to do here. And I think that wraps up, well, pretty much everything. So, yeah, I guess we'll see you guys in the next and final video.